welcome back to the High Speed Garage. I've got the two boys next to me. How you going?
Not bad. How you going?
Nice crack, Hayden.
Not bad now.
All right, we have a guest here today, Chelsy Hamilton. How you going, Chelsy?
Yeah, not bad. How are you?
Oh, I'm all right. Chelsea's our F1 guru.
Yeah,
I'm
we've
gonna
been
call her a
teasing to get
guru.
her in here.
Yeah.
Finally got F1 guru to come in.
What's been happening? What have you done? What's your week been like?
Not much. I went to Billie Eilish last week, actually.
Oh, yeah?
Went to 2 of her concerts. That was pretty good. But other than that...
2?
Yeah, I went to 2. Had to stand. I feel like you have to stand at those sort of concerts, like in the pit in GA, to have like a dance. But then my sister also wanted to go and she can't stand for that long. So had to get another ticket and go sit with her one other night.
That sounds disappointing.
Yeah.
You go to lots of concerts, eh?
Yeah, I'm a bit of a concert guru too, actually. Yeah, I think I went to like 18 concerts last year.
Yeah, right. How many have you been to this year so far?
I've only been to...
18.
If you count Billie Eilish twice, I've only been to 3 this year.
Oh, yeah.
Can
It's
you
only
count?
early, though.
Can you count that twice? But
No, I don't count that. No, usually I'll just count it as one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
so
did you go to Luke Combs? Everyone else did.
No, I didn't go to Luke Combs. No, country music is not my jam, but
Yeah,
I'm
no,
down for everyone else having that as their jam. Good on
No,
them.
we covered you on that one.
Right, so you heading to the Melbourne opening round of the F1 GP?
Yeah, heading there soon. So that's exciting. That's I think the 4th time that my partner and I have gone. So we're excited to get back to Melbourne. Yeah.
You don't take the kids with you?
No, don't take the kids with us.
Yeah, that's nice. So you'll be drinking plenty of alcohol down there?
Yep, plenty of drinking. We have Paddock Club passes on the Thursday, so that includes unlimited alcohol and food for the day. So we will definitely be getting our money's worth that day.
Yeah, sweet. You posting all sorts of photos all over socials too, I'm assuming? Told you I could fuck you over.
Get me in the shit. Yeah, maybe I'll private my account, have a select few that can see those images. We'll see how we go.
Yeah, leave all the family off that account this week.
Yeah, it'll be strict invite only. Podcast members, maybe that'll be all. We'll see how we go.
So you can represent us down there, yeah? We can give you some T-shirts and you can wear them around? Or
Why not?
Your husband can wear them around?
Why not? Should print some stickers. I can hand them out to all the other F1 girly pops that are hanging around the paddock.
That's a good point.
That'd be nice.
Yeah, we do need to get
Stubby
some,
holders.
Yeah, stubby holders would be good. We do need to get some stickers done with a QR code on it and just slap it on a dunny door or something like that at random race events.
That's actually a really good idea.
Yeah.
We will get that organised.
Well, if you get it organised this week, I promise to put it in the porta potties for you.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that to the sign writer this week. He's looking after us.
So have you been watching the testing?
Yeah, I watched a little bit of testing. I watch it because it's just your first taste of F1 again after close to 3 months off. But
you're so keen, you just need that little fix,
just need
don't
that.
you?
Yeah, you just need to be able to see it. But at the same time, not a lot usually happens, and you can't. You ask every different person will give you a different answer on what the results of testing mean.
Yeah.
In Formula One preseason testing could mean anything. So take it with a grain of salt.
A lot of people don't like to show their hand too early or anything like that, I suppose.
That's what they reckon.
Yeah.
That's what everyone says. Sandbagging is everyone's favourite word come preseason testing time.
Yeah, everyone going fast is going to be quick. Everyone going slow and having a shit time. No, they're just sandbagging.
Yeah, absolutely. And if they get a lot of laps in, then and they're your favourites, then that's it only actually matters how many miles you put in. That's what testing's about. Just miles. Doesn't matter about the speed.
Yeah,
so
right.
literally
testing
everyone
doesn't really mean too much.
It means a lot for the teams. They get a lot of data out of it, and I actually do think the miles.
Even if the cars aren't doing quick laps.
Absolutely, and I think the miles is a big part of it. I think if your team or a driver gets the most miles out of everyone else, they're going to see the most improvement in those first couple races as opposed to everybody else. But yeah, Carlos Sainz in a Williams topped the time for testing this year. And for anyone that's not a Formula One fan, or I don't know, what do you compare that to? The slowest car on the grid essentially last year.
Yeah,
right. Yeah, but I would say I would hope that Carlos Sainz would jump out of a red car and jump into anything, and you would expect him to be fairly quick jumping into anything. Yeah, he's not going to have the consistency of all the other teams, but Christ, he would have to be quick. Maybe not top of the I wouldn't expect him to be top of the sheets, but he's a good driver.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Williams will see heaps of development with him this year too. Him and Alex Albon as a couple are going to do really great things. I mean, you can't do much worse than Logan Sargent last year. It was a yank that was on the grid and put the car in the bin. I couldn't tell you how many times. He was so much so to the point that in Melbourne last year when Alex had a crash in practice, they gave Alex Logan's car for the race because they didn't have enough spare parts to rebuild the car.
Right.
So that tells you a lot about that driver.
Got confidence.
He had great potential in other classes, but just didn't cut it when it came to F1. So I think having someone like Carlos Sainz, who won a few races last year in a Ferrari, going into a bottom of the grid team like that, they should see heaps of development. But even he said after testing, he doesn't expect to be coming first. He's quite surprised by the test results, and he doesn't think that is an accurate representation of what the grid's going to look like this year.
The budget had hurt you.
Oh, absolutely.
Through the team.
Yeah, but on top of that, if Williams were paying for all the repairs from Logan last year and putting Carlos into that car, they're not going to have that massive repair bill. So instead of paying for repairing cars, they're actually making their cars faster. It has to be better anyway.
Yeah, it makes a huge difference. The only problem with that theory is that all the money, not all the money, but a lot of the money that they wasted, I guess, on those bin repairs, cars. Yeah. A lot of each season, the money that you're spending each season isn't necessarily going into your car for that season. It's for next season.
They develop last year.
So they would have lost a lot of development time for this year based on the repair work that they were doing last year. But again, like you said, they should see a lot of development throughout this season because they have two consistent drivers in their cars.
And there's a fair bit of coin going into the workshop this year as well, isn't there?
Yeah, absolutely.
That'll help a lot. It has to.
A driver that's come from a top team too has probably got a lot of information from Ferrari that can be transferred into that car. I know they're all different, but they got to have some kind of similarities that can help with that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's where you see stuff like Lewis Hamilton moving into Ferrari from a Mercedes. He has all that experience under his belt. He has all those world championships with him, and he brings that to a team that hasn't seen a lot of that lately.
But he's also coming into that team with confidence. Like you know yourself, like you jump into anything you're doing on the front foot, you're a lot better than if you're jumping in going, I don't know if I'm going to be any good. You're not going to be any good. If you jump in there going, I'm going well, you're going to go better than what you would have done if you jump in there saying...
There's a saying that I've heard a few times that if F1's doing well, Ferrari does well. So if you're seeing Ferraris up the top end of the grid, that means Formula One as the business is doing well.
Yeah, that's probably a reasonable insight at a starting point.
I think most people, when they think of race cars, they think of a red, shiny car driving
Absolutely.
around the track. So
F1's Ferrari.
Yeah,
has been forever.
It'd be for the people that aren't as vested in as you, Chelsy. Probably if you talk to anyone about F1, their first probably car they'd say Ferrari.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Why wouldn't you? And again, I wasn't a Ferrari gal last year, but now that Lewis Hamilton's put on that red suit, you best believe I'll be wearing red to the racetrack in Melbourne.
You're a Lewis fan, are you?
I'm a Lewis fan through and through. Don't talk to me about Abu Dhabi 2021 because it didn't happen. For those listening at home, that's the year that Max Verstappen was wrongfully awarded the World Drivers' Championship. I'm not a Max hater, okay? I quite enjoy Max Verstappen as well, but
what got you into
as a Lewis Hamilton lover, that hurts a lot. I couldn't quite put my finger on it. I think it started when I was working at Fox Sports. So I first got my job at Fox Sports was in end of 2019, I think, or 2020. It was right before COVID. And we switched the Formula One. What I was doing there was live sports switching. And one of those live sports was the Formula One. And one of my first ever overnight shifts was switching Formula One. So I got into it then. And then I got onto this silly little Netflix show called Drive to Survive, which there'll be a lot of people listening that despise that particular show and think that anyone that watches that has absolutely no idea about Formula One.
Yeah,
And
But you can look. I'll stop you there. You can hate that show, or you can appreciate that show for what it did for motorsport worldwide. It brought so many people that had no interest in racing whatsoever. My little brother, he's got no interest in even what his father did. Well, he does have an interest, but he didn't follow boat racing. But now he's talking to me about Formula One because of that Drive to Survive. So you can hate it all you like, or you can appreciate it for what it did.
yeah, absolutely. And it's bringing those conversations to people that never used to have it. Like you said, I grew up around boat races. My entire family on both sides race boats, and they also race sprint cars and motorbikes, and I raced go-karts growing up as well. But I lost that. I don't know. I just didn't particularly want to be a part of it for some time in those late teenage years. I didn't really want anything to do with it. And then, yeah, again, the passion was ignited when I was at work, physically forced to watch it and switching it. That was where it really started. But when someone at work said, have you heard of this show? Like, you enjoyed that. Have you heard of it? I thought, no, I'll have a look at it. And yeah, it's a reality TV show, so it's not real.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
it's
ironic.
Fucking entertaining. Like, it's
I've
fucking
never
at the
seen
first.
it. I've heard about
so you
it
turn
lots,
it on,
but
and
I've
the
never
first
seen it.
episode you've got is a Daniel Ricciardo focused episode, and it just is exactly what you need.
That sucks everyone's
Yeah,
dream.
exactly
I didn't
what you
mind
need.
it.
Danny Rick exploded after that, didn't he?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I didn't know who he was before that, and I know that makes me sound ignorant, but again, I wasn't watching motorsports before that experience. And then, last year at the Grand Prix, I asked him to pick a spot to get one of his quotes signed on my body. So he picked a spot on my arm, and I went and got that quote. And that quote has other meanings to me, but it's an experience. And a lot of people, like I said, don't agree with it, don't like it, but I think it's brought a lot to the sport.
Yeah.
It is unfortunate because it's almost impossible to get a ticket to most of the events nowadays. But
that's awesome. As far as I'm concerned, that's awesome.
And honestly, more money to Formula One keeps more... like, this is, again, one of the years we've had the most races in a calendar year ever.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
It's growing, and more races are happening more frequently, which the drivers and the teams might be put under a lot more pressure, but it also means teams employ more employees to do the work at the
That's
tracks.
awesome,
like, it
yeah.
creates jobs. It does a lot for the sport, and I think, if anyone shits on it, then that's their right to do so. Usually when the older male fans come up to me and approach me at Formula One events, you'd be surprised how often it happens. And they say, oh, just another DTS fan, or look, another DTS fan. That's Drive to Survive. And I just turn around and say, what's DTS? Don't know what that is.
Yeah.
Never heard of it.
Put them in their place.
Never heard of it.
Yeah,
Sorry.
that's right.
Don't know what
Yeah.
you're talking about. Then they ask me who was world champion in like 1987. And I say, why the fuck would I care about something that happened before I was born?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for asking those questions. I can tell you most of the stats from the last 5 years, though. Can you?
Yeah.
Because I've watched every race.
Yeah.
That's where you should throw a question back at them, a bit of an odd one from
I do.
3 or 4
There's
years
occasions that I do, but it's like I'm up at, and it's ridiculous because I have kids, but my husband and I sit there and wake up at 2 a.m. and watch a race that's meant to go for an hour and a half. We end up watching it for 5 hours because there's red flags and stoppages and God knows whatever else, and then we
interviews
don't
and
even go
stuff
to sleep. We go to
afterwards and all
work.
that,
Yeah.
So how do you define a fan?
Yeah. No, look, there is going to be people that's going to knock the newcomers, but the newcomers bring more people to the track. And the more, like, realistically, you go to the circle that Australians are, our premium is supercars. Well, supercars are a massive part of the Albert Park Grand Prix next weekend. And the more people that are watching the Formula One class are going to be watching the supercars, and that's just going to be supporting that circle. It just keeps on going around, down and down and down.
Yeah, absolutely.
So much better.
It's probably not so much a new fan. It's probably more the fact that you're a female. When you're talking about the older male guys, they probably don't think females belong around like racetracks and things like that. That's kind of an old school opinion. But Formula One's got probably one of the highest ratios of women in the paddock. Would that be right?
It's quite diverse, isn't it?
It's definitely getting more and more diverse each year. And I mean, now we have the Formula One Academy, which is a whole nother race series, which is just for women, which again has its critiques and each to their own, but they're definitely making moves to get more women not necessarily racing cars, but in the paddock, working on cars and working in media and having that more diverse group of people in the space is definitely good for everyone, because that, like, why do you think I dropped off as, you know, a 15-year-old girl in racing go-karts against one other girl and 20 boys?
Yeah.
Because I didn't really have anyone. I'll tell you what I had, which you might need to cut out later, but I had that bloody V8, that Bathurst year, the fucking pussy wagon. That's what I had, right? So why would I want to be that? And, you know, and people at home will either know what that is or they won't, but there was no females to look up to in the sport, whereas now there is. There's a whole entire academy of them. Yeah. Mechanics, engineers, like track engineers, all sorts of different.
Doing real well too.
Doing real well. We've got an Aussie, I don't know the name off the top of my head. I think Molly someone.
Taylor.
Molly Taylor.
Molly Taylor just got into
she's a weapon.
She's been doing rally for a long time.
Yeah, she's really good.
Yeah, and she's now in Formula One Academy. Is that the female that I'm talking about?
I don't know.
No, Molly Taylor's
she's
rally driver.
She's probably a bit past racing now. She's probably getting a bit old.
She's not. Molly Taylor's not doing Formula One.
No.
Yeah, but she's probably a bit past racing in general. She's probably a little.
No, I thought
older.
she was still doing.
Yeah, some small
rally.
stuff. She wouldn't
not
be
big
serious,
rally stuff anymore, but yeah.
I've seen her do
stuff with her old man.
No, her mum is Coral Taylor, who's even bigger in rally driving.
Yeah, she's won world championships, I think, as a navigator.
Yeah.
Sorry, Molly Taylor's doing the Race of Champions this weekend. That's what I got that one confused with. I can't remember the name, but there's a new Aussie 17-year-old girl who just got put into Formula One Academy.
Awesome.
Which again, it's essentially a feeder class. I think they're an equivalent of an F4, and usually F1 racers move through the ranks of F4 up, which is a British race circuit, and then they move up to F3 and then F2, and everyone has to take those steps. No one's saying that a woman should just jump into a F1 car, because that would be disastrous. Yeah. No one should do that.
Yeah.
But it's an academy class that's meant for development, and they're meant to do that for a maximum of 2 years, and then they're meant to hopefully step into an F3 car and start to move up, or potentially sidestep into an F4 car, which is a similar level. But yeah, so that's I wish I could remember her name, but she's going to be in Formula One Academy this year, which is exciting. Another Aussie on the grid. Awesome. We're everywhere now.
In saying that, does the F1 teams have to support say F3 team or F4 team?
Not necessarily those, but they do have to support the F1 Academy teams.
Yeah, right.
So
similar basics, but that's the new style.
So 10 of the F1 Academy teams are named after. 10 of the F1 Academy teams are named after the main team. So there's like a Kick Sauber, there's a Racing Bulls, there's one of each, and then the other 10 are external sponsors. So I think one is like an Amex car, and things like that, right? Because each team, there's 20 teams on the grid, 20 cars on the grid currently. So that's 10 teams.
Similar.
Yeah. So Ava. And I cannot pronounce her last name, and I'm not going to butcher it.
Yeah, take it on.
If you look at it.
Good luck on that one. I just found it on the Googles.
The alphabet.
Yeah, so that's pretty exciting to see.
And Anagnostidas.
That's pretty close, I reckon. You did well. Just Google it for those at home. Search F1 Academy Australia, and she'll come up on your screen. But yeah, 17 years old and racing.
Yeah, awesome.
In a class like that, which is awesome. And then again, hopefully she'll get picked up by an F4 team or potentially an F3 team, and then make her way through the ranks like everyone else. And maybe one day she'll be an F1 driver. Maybe not.
Chelsy, you can knock her all. Anyone can knock this girl all you like, but the best supercar drivers have gone through the European circles and still failed. So if she goes well, mad, why can't we push that? Like, if you've done well and get yourself to the top step, you can't put shit on her because she's a girl, because all the other drivers that have failed have tried to do exactly what she's doing and haven't gone there. So why can't we push that?
Literally pinnacle of the world.
Yeah,
it's the best of the best. And if they can do it, who gives a shit if she's a girl or a boy?
Doesn't matter.
Do the best you can do it, and if you get there, that's sick.
That's one of the best things about
you
motorsport.
Can't get given it back.
Your physical abilities don't come into it.
I don't believe they do.
You've got a race car and you drive that as best you can. It doesn't matter. Gender doesn't matter a shit when you're in motorsport, which is the coolest thing.
I think it's like Joel just mentioned, you can't get given it. And I think what people misunderstand with F1 Academy in particular is they think that these women are given seats and then they're expecting an F1 seat next year. And that is not the case. There are some very ignorant people that will go and sell that to you. Like this person, there was a woman last year and the year before, she was racing for the McLaren F1 Academy. Her name was Bianca, and she had a huge social media presence. And honestly, she didn't perform very well last year. She was midfield probably at best. I'm not even sure if she got any podiums, but and then people see that and they just think because she's got a social media presence, a lot of the trolls online jump on and just say, you just think you're in a McLaren race suit. She's posting that she's in a McLaren race suit because she's racing a McLaren car. But people think that she's expecting to just be given a seat next year or she's going to be a reserve driver. And it's just not the case.
Yeah.
Women don't expect to be given those sort of things. But having F1 Academy as something that is just for women, I think makes people frustrated that they think that opportunity isn't there for men. So where's the class that's just for men? And it's just the
everywhere.
point. Well, it's everywhere, but it's also just the point of those classes really didn't exist for women 10 years ago. So it's just giving them that extra head
it's just
foot
another
up
way
because boys have
to
been
help
doing
them
it their
show
whole
off.
lives, right? But women haven't. We don't have a lot of young women that have been doing it their whole lives. We will now though.
Yeah.
Right? Because they see
it'll
this.
Start to change,
those girls that are go-karting will keep go-karting.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
They'll keep racing.
Don't get bullied out. A lot of people, they get bullied out of it.
Yeah, and that happens to men too. Like, I'm
Yeah.
not saying that doesn't happen to everyone in motorsport. Like, you can have a shit run and everyone will shit all over you. I'm sure you know Nudo, that's how that goes sometimes.
Yeah.
Probably all of you do. But
Yeah.
Everyone experiences it, but it's just about giving them that little foot up and then seeing where it goes. No expectations.
Yeah, like you say, if they're all no good, well, no one gets anything.
That's it. No one gets a seat. I think
Try
about
later.
half the class from last year didn't progress into single-seater style racing. A lot of them have gone to rally car and things like that, which is great.
Yeah, that's another
so
thing.
they can still steer a car, but they're just not good enough for
but
open
not
wheelers.
Exactly. And that's fine.
F1, like the whole thing, all the way from F4 right through to F1. That's a big deal.
Oh, 100%.
That's like pinnacle of everything.
Yeah.
It's a pinnacle of the world of motorsport.
Yeah, just if they can get a leg up in that doesn't mean they have to go down. Some people probably don't even want to go down the F1 road. They'd straight away think that's too hard. I'd rather just be a V8 supercar driver. But that will still help them get to that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But speaking of getting back onto F1, so we've got 2 Aussies on the grid this year, which is pretty exciting. I mean, we did have 2 for half of last year. We won't talk about Daniel's dramatic exit in Singapore last year, but we've got, for the first time in his rookie season, Jack Doohan.
Yep.
A lot of you will know his dad, Mick Doohan.
I'm keen to see Jack go. I've watched him in the other classes pretty regular. I'm not really a Formula One kind of person, but I do. I've seen a lot of stuff on socials about Jack from driving the lower class, and I've watched and kept an eye on it all. And hopefully he does well. Yeah,
well, he's unfortunately there's already rumours circling about a replacement for him, which will definitely be putting him under some pressure for the first few races. So that's Franco Colapinto, who raced quite well for the back half of the season for Williams last year. He replaced old mate American who had to go, Logie Bear.
Yep.
He replaced him and performed really well. But then didn't end up with a seat this year. So he's now been rumoured to be taking Jack's seat before Jack's even had a go.
Yeah,
but
I was going to mention that Jack Doohan he's already got the microscope on him before he starts. Look, realistically, that's probably a good thing for him. He can realise that he's not going to get the free ride all the way through the year. He's got to work his ass off. He's a good driver, don't get me wrong, but he's going to have the microscope on him straight away. And if he can keep up to his teammate, I reckon he'd be all right. But if he struggles, I think, he's going to...
He's only young, 22.
Yeah, he's really young. And the thing with him is he's been with Alpine for quite a while. Last year he was a reserve driver for them, but he put in a lot of hours in their sim. And Alpine, out of nowhere, they're a bottom sort of half of the field sort of team. And last year they got a 1-2 finish in Brazil, which was pretty crazy. There was weather and things that went into that outcome, but they got a 1-2. And a lot of the members of the team after the fact mentioned that if Jack hadn't put, hundreds of hours that week into the sim testing, like he'd been doing all that sim testing and he'd been helping them with updates. He's a very technically minded driver.
Yep.
And if he hadn't have been helping them with all those updates, they wouldn't have got the car to where it was to be able to perform the way it did.
Yeah, okay, that's cool.
He's been a huge part of building the team, and so I think we were all expecting him to get that seat this year because of the amount of work that he's put into it. And it's, again, he seems like a real asset behind the scenes, but this will be the real test of whether he...
As long as he hopes he doesn't get caught up in some shit.
And it's got to be hard having your first race as your home race.
He has to keep his
the pressure. The pressure around, because Oscar Piastri, when he first had his home race, was very interacted with fans very differently to the way he does now. Was very reserved. Seemed very anxious most of the time.
You would.
And imagine,
100%.
and that was I think the third race of the season, the year that was his rookie year. Whereas this year, Jack's got it as not only have you got the nerves of the first race of the season, first time in an F1 car in a real race situation, not in testing. But you've also got the fact that it's in front of 400,000
Australians,
drunk Australians, and we'll all be cheering for him. But he'd be feeling the pressure. So it'll be a really good one to watch this year.
The other Aussie, Oscar.
Yep.
Fucked that up, didn't I? How's he going to go?
It's not just me now. It's all right.
How's he going to go? Do you reckon he'll do all right?
He's got a good car underneath him, though.
He's got a good car underneath him. If
we're talking on the tail end of something too.
If we're talking about testing, which again, I've made my point on that known, but it was midfield at best in testing. They also didn't get the miles in that I think they should have in testing as a team. They were quite low. They got 381 miles total between the two cars, whereas the highest was Mercedes at 458. So that's a lot of extra miles to get under the car. Maybe they don't need it. Maybe they're sandbagging. Who knows?
Yeah.
But it definitely stresses you out. Last year, I think if he just had one or two better races at the start of the season, and again, they weren't his fault. He had multiple incidents last season where he was taken out by someone else. He finished his races, but he had to make a significant pit stop anyway that affected his races quite dramatically. I think if McLaren stick by their word of there is no number one driver, which I don't like Zach Brown very much, but if he can just keep his word that there's no number one driver, because we all know that Lando Norris, the other driver for McLaren, is Zach Brown's, I feel like he's his freaking love child. And they let them race, especially at his first. If he can get on the podium in Australia, which no one's done. I don't know if it's ever, but definitely not in a long time. I haven't had an Aussie on the podium in Australia. Then he'll be off to a good start. Yeah. And I think he definitely has the skill and potential to outdrive his teammate, which is all he needs. Yeah, nice. As long as he can keep ahead of him for the first couple of races, he can get that priority with the team. And he has the makings to be a world champion. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And he's got a pretty good backer behind him.
Yeah, imagine having Mark Webber as your...
That's awesome to have someone like Mark Webber behind you. The same as Jack Doohan, to have someone like Mick Doohan from the start of your life, to have someone so technical bringing you up. Clearly, it's going to be a good... Well, I don't even believe it's the dollars. It's the mindset. Well, you've got a good mindset from the start.
Mick's kind of set Jack up. I believe it's on the Gold Coast, Mick's house. He built a go-kart track at his house for, Jack to just play with.
That starts your brain working that direction.
Yeah. So he's had a good start to a motorsport career. What about Liam Lawson? We can almost claim him as an Aussie.
Yeah, almost. He's a very polarising character. I think I would say 50-50, but I'd actually think it's more like 40-60, that about 60% really don't like him at the moment. And but 40 do.
The problem he's got is he's sort of come from the background. He was always going to be that person that took Denny Rick's seat. He was there was never a chance that he was going to be driving beside Danny Rick. So people sort of don't really like him, but he's also the young gun that's taking Danny Rick's seat, stepping beside him. I sort of saw it as he was stepping beside him. Danny Rick was never going to be driving next to Max, but all of a sudden, he's driving next to Max. That's pretty cool, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I disagree with the Danny was never going to be driving next to Max again statement.
Really?
Just because last year when they went on summer break, Danny Rick and Max Verstappen boarded Max's private jet with a big bottle of champagne and they had swapped helmets and they were celebrating something. And then 2 days later, the major oil sponsor that sponsors Red Bull, who comes from Sergio Perez's sponsorship deals, so they only sponsor Red Bull because of Sergio, made a public claim that if Sergio was dropped, they would drop Red Bull. And then suddenly Sergio was no longer being dropped from the team. So that's a whole nother can of worms, but that's okay. Right. I think what people have got to remember, if that's why people don't like him, Oscar Piastri also technically took Daniel Ricciardo's seat.
Yeah,
Daniel
he did.
had a sign. Yeah. Daniel was meant to be racing the following year with McLaren, and Oscar took that seat. And no one really held beef against Oscar, and they shouldn't. That's just how racing is. That's how seats work.
It's cutthroat.
But F1 is humongously cutthroat. That's just how it is.
Particularly Red Bull. So I look forward to seeing if Liam. I really hope he does well. I do. And I think he could. I think people worry about his attitude, for example, giving Sergio Perez the finger as he drove past him after an overtake last year, because he wasn't impressed with the way that Sergio had taken a corner before the lap before that or something like that. Some people weren't impressed because he was in essentially Red Bull and Racing Bulls are two separate teams, but Racing Bulls is like a baby of Red Bull. It's like a little sister team of Red Bull. Yeah. It is a feeder team. It's meant to be a development team. And so they saw someone on the development team giving someone on the main team the finger and thought, look at the attitude on this kid. But I thought, fuck it. Isn't that what races are meant to do?
Yeah,
100%.
It doesn't matter
if you don't
what
have
team
a bit
you
of that,
drive them for. You're in a completely another car. It could be exactly the same team. If you're in another car and he does something wrong, you get the shits about it.
Absolutely.
If you don't have those fangs, it's bite or get bitten.
100%.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I like the grit. I just worry because Red Bull has a very, very bad reputation for that second seat. No one's held it for more than 2 years, I don't think. Sergio might have got close, and Sergio was someone that before he stepped into that seat had just won a race from 20th to 1st in the last race of the season.
Yeah, right.
Then they called him, gave him the seat, and then just underperformed then. Had a few good races and underperformed. And they have had people like Alex Albon and Pierre Gasly in that seat, and they've got a real reputation for bringing young or inexperienced drivers into that seat and watching them crumble, and after 6 to 12 races, dropping them and swapping them.
Yeah, right.
Which is just, it's disappointing because it ends those drivers' careers. You then see someone like Alex Albon who had huge potential but has then been sitting in a Williams ever since. Yeah. Which again, that we could get a surprise from them this year, and I think they might be at least top half of the grid this year. But yeah, it's interesting. We'll keep our eyes on him, but yeah, definitely take him, I think, as an honorary Aussie. The poor New Zealanders don't get a race. So
if he goes well, we'll claim him. If he doesn't, he's a Kiwi.
We'll stay tuned. We'll stay tuned.
All right. Yeah, so you're heading down there. How many Melbourne Grand Prix have you been to?
I think this will be our 4th, I think. And I also went to Singapore last year. That was my first abroad Grand Prix.
Oh, yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. Picked the most boring race in the history of Singapore. Not one yellow flag, not one red flag, not even a drop of rain. Was horrendous. And my least favourite driver won. But that's okay. The experience was good.
You plan on doing any more overseas?
Yeah, next year the plan is to start getting some overseas trips in. Every year we go, not every year, but the last couple of years we've gone to Melbourne, and we've said this will be our last year at Melbourne. We don't need to keep spending money to go to the same place. I want to see different tracks. And then every year there's an excuse to go to Melbourne. So last year it was, we should just do the Paddock Club experience on a Thursday, because who can afford that for the whole weekend? Yeah. But just for reference, a Thursday Paddock Club ticket is $850.
Holy fuck.
Just single ticket.
Wow.
So, I always wanted to experience something like that, and it was fantastic. I got up close with and had conversations with lots of drivers, team principals, media
that's cool,
personalities.
Yeah, right.
Like, and had proper conversations with them because you're just in the space that they're in. It's really good. So then we said that would be our last year, but then Australia got brought back to be the first round of the season, and we said, well, we've never experienced a first round before. So we went back. So next year there's got to be nothing new. Oh, and also as soon as Lewis Hamilton announced he was moving to Ferrari, if I didn't physically see him in a Ferrari, I would have been really sad. So had to come back for that. So next year, maybe Hungary or Japan, Suzuka might be on the cards, hopefully.
Japan would be pretty cool.
Yeah, Japan would be nice.
Nice and close too.
I've thought about going to Japan for the MotoGP, but we'll see how that turns out.
We really need to be getting some more of these high-speed garage T-shirts done by Contrast Printing. So to send you down to Melbourne with some.
Yeah.
It seems that way.
Definitely. Or even Race of Champions on the weekend. If anyone's looking to go to Race of Champions as well, that'll be on the night that this podcast releases. That'll be Friday night.
They Friday night, are they?
Yes, on Friday night and Saturday night this weekend. Tickets are definitely still available because they're far too expensive. But there are some nosebleed tickets. That's where I'll be up in the nosebleeds, and I think we'll still have a great experience up there. Take the kids, have a good time. And again, you've got 3 F1 races racing in the Race of Champions this year.
Yeah, who are racing?
Who is racing? So in Formula One, you've got Valtteri Bottas, so the honorary Aussie, though he's not racing for the Australian team, which kind of sucks.
He has got a pretty good mullet.
Yeah, he does. You've also got Sebastian Vettel, so ex-Formula One driver, and also Mick Schumacher, ex-Formula One driver.
A couple of good names.
Yeah, so those are the F1s, and then you've got Travis Pastrana, which the boys...
One of the Yankee boys, yeah.
Jamie Whincup, an Aussie.
And Will Brown.
Yep. And there's a few rally car, there's a few Formula E, Formula 3, and a bunch of different drivers from all different classes. And the great thing about Race of Champions is that they're all racing the exact same car, the exact same engine, not separate sponsors, nothing like that. It's all exactly the same, and they all race the same track.
Yeah.
And it's a crossover track too, so it's pretty exciting. And it's all times trial based, but it's a good test of people's actual ability, and it's probably the best way is a V8 racer better than a F1 driver when they put in equipment they've never used before.
Yeah. Are they a fossil burner or are they an e-car?
No,
car?
I think they're a fossil burner.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think.
Yeah, they're not e-cars. I'd say 80% sure of that.
Yeah, I'm not 100%.
Remember they were running a KTM cross? They were running a KTM car a couple of years ago. I remember seeing something about that.
Oh, I don't remember that. Yeah, right.
I don't know. I'm not too sure on what they're running. I just know that it's the first time they've ever come to Australia. They brought the race to Australia, and it's probably going to be the last because they haven't sold a lot of tickets. But that's okay. Yeah. I reckon you should get out. If you can get out there, you definitely should go and have a look because.
But it wouldn't be a cheap exercise. Like they've pulled the grass off the paddock.
Yeah,
they craned that grass out of the paddock.
It's actually properly tarmacked.
Yeah.
It's a proper, and it actually really shits me off because the council can't fix me potholes on me roads in the house, but Sydney apparently Olympic Park Council can literally, and it looks smick, but it's a proper racetrack has been set up in a core stadium, and again it's a crossover track. It's an exciting style of racing.
Sounds awesome. Is it being live streamed or anything like that?
It's a great question. I'm actually not.
It's going to be live on Channel 10 Friday and Saturday night, as far as I was told.
Channel 10. Right.
Yep.
That's great.
Well, I'll definitely be watching it.
Yeah, so I've found it on the Googles. The cars will be a rallycross car, a supercar light, which means nothing to me. There you go. KTM Crossbow, that's what I was trying to think of. So they are still using them. A Polaris RZR series, the Subaru BRZ series, and a Toyota GR86 Cup cars. So there's a fair few cars running in it. So they must be, as far as I know, the whole group is one car. Is that right?
They got there's the four drivers.
Each group?
In each group,
two. Yeah, 2 drivers I think from each group, from each country. Is that what you mean?
Yeah. But I mean, there's groups. If you look through that, Chelsy, you'll see the
groups that are racing against one another. Yes,
against one another.
Yeah, but then all the times at the end will also.
I've seen it on Facebook today that Group A, B, C, D, blah blah blah, and it shows you everything. Then you go into the next round and the next round and the next round. But I think there's already... I don't know.
6 different makes of cars head-to-head.
Yeah, right.
That'll be pretty cool. Oh, the track looks sick. I've seen a few things come up on Fast Ellie. They've been putting up a couple of build photos.
Yeah.
A couple of good shots.
Yeah, I follow a few of the track makers on TikTok.
Alrighty, yeah.
I've seen a bit of their content. I just couldn't believe how... I mean, of course, it's going to be professional. It's a international yearly race, but yeah, looks like a really good setup. Should be good.
Are you going to be pushing your TikTok down there?
At Race of Champions?
Yeah.
Not so much at Race of Champions. They're too close to F1 to be dabbling in it too much. I'll do a little TikTok.
If you start to push TikTok there, that starts to bring the progression
I've already started with the Billie Eilish stuff. Got some traction on Billie Eilish, so that's getting the views up. And as long as we keep them up as we go in.
I've seen that one that you refused to sing.
Oh, yeah. That wasn't the traction one. The traction one was I couldn't believe how much free stuff I got from the Billie Eilish concert. And I posted that and that got 70,000 views in the first day. Anyway, but again, I'm a novice TikToker. I just do it for fun and then I forget it exists for a couple months.
Yeah, well, we're novice podcasters, so...
while we're talking about your socials, you might as well plug yourself so people can get on board and check it out and help you maybe get some sponsors to send you to some more F1 rounds.
Oh, I mean, well, obviously we'll take sponsors, of course. But it's almost better if people I know don't follow me. But it's a bit embarrassing when they do.
We're worldwide.
Yeah, you know what? Of course, an international podcast. I should have known.
No one we know listens to this either. They all think we're F-wits.
But yeah, no, it's just Chelsy Hamo everywhere. Spelt Chelsy. Hamo, because my mum must have been on something when she spelt my name, but that's okay. So yeah, that's it on TikTok. Don't really do much else. Don't really do TikTok, but that's okay. One day, I'll get enough followers and we'll get on it.
Alrighty, well I suppose we can wrap that up. Thanks for coming, Chelsy.
Thank you very much.
It's alright.
You have to phone us in next week when you're in the paddock.
Yeah, I will do. Oh, I'm also going to the Gunther Steiner special, which is he's the team principal and founder of Haas F1 racing team. I'm going to that special on Wednesday night. They will have a Q&A session. They did last year. So if anyone has any questions they want to ask Gunther, I asked him if he'd be if he'd ever get into V8s.
Oh yeah.
He was a hard pass on that, but
wow.
It was worth asking the question. So if anyone's got any questions, listeners and you guys alike, and they want me to put that up on the screen and potentially ask Gunther Steiner, then
we'll
comment on the podcast and let us know.
We'll pass it on to you.
Yeah,
and get
we'll put it up.
I've got one question.
Answers.
You can ask him if he likes boats.
If he likes boats. You know what? I should.
Gets into boat racing.
Have you ever heard of circuit powerboat racing?
Best kept
Let
secret
me blow your mind.
Yep.
All right. Thanks for coming on, Chelsy.
Too easy. See you later, boys.
Next week.
Thank you.
Thanks
Bye.
a lot.
Have a good time down in Melbourne.
Yep, we'll do.